What is up, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for another Nick at Night. Got through my books this week. It was a smaller week, so I picked up a few books that I might not have picked up otherwise. I'm going to get into them next. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to start over in the big two, as we always do. Starting off with a highly anticipated book, in my opinion. It was Star Wars Obi Wan #1 from Christopher Cantwell. Now, this is a really interesting book. I don't want to give too much away because I feel like a lot of people are going to be wanting to read this, or it's probably on their list right now to read. But essentially, we have a time period right before New Hope, it appears. We have Obi Wan kind of living his life right now, talking about the coming storm that he's sensing right now, which is really fun and interesting. And there's might be a little bit of metaphor buried into that, but it's also a literal sandstorm on its way. But it has a double meaning in this one. But basically, this story right here is a retrospective tale of when he was a young kid, some of the friends he had, what he was doing at the Jedi Academy, some of the mischief they would get in, some of the relationships that he had with certain people. He was really close to certain folks. And so it's a little bit of a deep dive on his history. He's really, really young. Obviously, he's not a Jedi yet. And so it's a nice little tale about what he was kind of getting into, some of the mischief he was getting into back when he was younger. And again, some of the relationships he built back then. So in this first issue, we're not going to get a whole lot of like lightsaber battles, and there's no Darth Vaders and things like that. Not a real clear idea of the threat yet in the story, and I guess we're going to evolve into that as we would expect. So an interesting start, not exactly what I was anticipating. It was still fun. The art's really interesting. Some of the colors and stuff it just really, really pops. There's some action scenes here and there, things like that, but not exactly what I was looking for. But it's still interesting, it's intriguing, and I think it's going to be touching base on different parts of his life, which is going to be kind of fun. And then eventually the storm that's coming, the literal and probably metaphorical storm, is coming, and we're going to explore that hopefully throughout this series. So Obi Wan #1, not too bad, kind of middle of the road, but I did enjoy it more than I didn't like it. We're going to move into some X books next. We're going to go into Marauders. This is issue #2 from Steve Orlando. So I did like issue #1 more than a lot of the other #1s that came out recently. I know we had some things like Immortal X-Men and X-Men Red, things like that. I kind of enjoyed this book way more than the other ones. I think we had Excalibur, Knights of X, or something like that recently as well. This is probably my most favorite one of that batch that came out. And we have our Marauders with Captain Pride kind of putting the team together. They're going after the Shi'ar Empire right now to try to uncover the truth behind the first mutants, right? The first blood spilled. And we have this big conspiracy theory that we're exploring in the Shi'ar Empire right now. We have the Kin Crimson, which is a pretty interesting character that comes up. It's like a secret society that's built in the Shi'ar Empire that's there to kind of protect the secrets. And we learn there's 10 sacred secrets or something like that in their society. And that's been really fun. It is a giant battle issue, which is really interesting. It is a little bit crazy with the paneling, and sometimes you don't even know what's happening. There's so much going on the two different pages, big spreads, which is really fun. And so a lot of the characters are using their powers in pretty creative, fun ways. I did enjoy that. I just like when Cassandra Nova's on the page, and we don't get her a whole lot on the page in this issue, but when we do, it's like, yes, I just want more of that. She's really interesting to me. She's really fun in this book. I like what she's doing, so I wish we had a little bit more of that. She's on the cover, which is awesome, fighting the Kin Crimson. So I was really digging those little sections there, and it's still a fun book. It's still fun. Do I know everything that's going on? No, I don't, because I'm still relatively new to X books at this point, but I'm learning, and it's pretty fun, and I still like what's happening even after issue #2. And so we're going to keep getting it. And we're going to see where it goes from there. Let me know what you guys think of this, all you long-term X-Men fans. What do you think of Marauders? The next Marvel book we're going to get into is a book that I went back to the shop to pick up because they had tons of copies, and I was interested in it because I haven't read anything from this certain character yet, and that is Spider-Man 2099. Again, Steve Orlando, who also wrote Marauders, is on this book too. So I wanted to check it out because I've been enjoying that writing style for now in Marauders. So I thought we'd check it out on Spider-Man 99. The basic plot for this book is interesting. We have Spider-Man taking on like an evil corporation, an evil presence. It's like a military presence almost in the city. And the city is what you would expect from like a futuristic landscape. It's full of neon lights, high towers, corruption, lots of steam and fog or smog everywhere. It's that typical thing. You have a class of citizens that's basically just being oppressed, and you have this military government kind of a thing called the Cabal, who's run by an evil ruler who they explore towards the end. And so we're understanding what kind of drives them, what's their mission. There is a lot of battles and some fights in here too. They are in more of like a digital form, holograms, things like that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you're going to get it peppered throughout this issue. And so I would say that, this group's motive is interesting. We actually explore what they're after, what their long-term game is. And I think that's interesting. Again, we do get a reveal of who the founder is, who the main bad guy is of this group. I thought that was pretty intriguing too. I'm not quite sure what he's getting into at the very end of this book, or what he's actually doing, but I guess we're going to explore that more. So Spider-Man 2099, I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad I got into it. It's kind of like a hot seat book, honestly, but I'll probably read another issue or two and see if it sticks or if it falls off. So let me know what you guys thought. Spider-Man 2099. So that's it for Marvel. We're going to hop over to DC next. We're going to start with Flashpoint Beyond. This is issue number 1. There's lots of people on the creative team here. We got Jeff Johns, Jeremy Adams, Tim Sheridan, and then depending on what page you're on, we have a different art team as well. Pretty interesting book. If you're into the Flashpoint universe, I think you're going to love this one. I did like Flashpoint, the run. I liked Flashpoint Paradox, like the animated series. I did like the tie-in books leading up to this book. So this book was really familiar for me and I can kind of jump into it. I didn't have a whole lot of questions about, why are the Atlanteans fighting with the Themyscira and why are they taking over? You know what I mean? Like what's this weakened Superman all about? So if you don't know anything about Flashpoint, you're going to be lost in this book. So I'd recommend really picking up that and doing that. You can even watch the Flashpoint Paradox animated movie and it would kind of catch you up to where we are right now. But basically, we're back in this universe and we don't really know why. We have Thomas Wayne. He's trying to unravel everything. He remembers undoing all this stuff with Barry Allen and everybody, which happened in the Flashpoint series and Flashpoint Paradox and whatnot. So he's trying to figure all this out. Some major tragedies happened in the first issue or in the issues leading up into this. So I won't really spoil those if you haven't gotten into it yet, but the means at which we solved this issue the first time are not there anymore. We can't do that same kind of stuff anymore. So Thomas Wayne has to be a little creative and figure out other ways of resolving this whole issue. There is lots of action and battles in here, a lot of good humor, a lot of good character moments. And it's kind of that out of continuity storytelling where you can be crazy and do fun things and not worry about the repercussions of it. You can kill certain main characters. And because they're not in main continuity, who cares? We can take care of that. So that was really fun. I did like all the lore. I did like all the battles and how personal everything felt because we have so much background with these characters and with the other series and everything. So seeing a continuation of those battles in this issue was really fun for me. I did like that. The art's really nice in here. Penguin's in this book as kind of the right-hand man for Thomas Wayne and his different organizations. And the sense of humor he brings into the book is really fun. I do like all those moments he's in there. So that was fun. And we did touch on our main continuity Batman in here too. They haven't quite explored exactly what he's up to right now, but we have some interesting hints at where this might be going towards the end of the book. But we're going to probably explore that as this run goes on. So Flashpoint Beyond, it's really a great read, especially if you're into the Flashpoint universe. So I would recommend that one for sure. All right, we're keeping on with Batman. We're going into Batman Killing Time. This is Tom King. This is issue number 3 of Killing Time. So we're about halfway through. One trope in every single issue so far is this time jumping montage that he does. So every single page, there's a 1 week prior, 10,000 years before, 2 months ago, that kind of stuff, and it jumps around a whole lot. So if you can't stand that kind of stuff, this issue does it a little less than issue number 2, because issue number 2, it was every single page was a time jump in that issue. I thought it was getting me dizzy. But issue number 2 left off in an interesting place. We basically have this Holy Grail type of a artifact that was stolen by the Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin. We have Riddler and Catwoman trying to sell this artifact to somebody, and they're expecting that buyer to come in, and somebody else meets him at the door. And very interesting character. And I feel like they do this a lot in superhero comics, especially Batman lately. They keep introducing new characters that are just like the most well-trained, most resourceful people that the world has ever seen. And they play like they've always been there. And I feel like, for instance, people like Ghostmaker and things like that, they were in Bruce's life the whole time and nobody ever knew about it. Well, they introduced another character in here that fits that vein and probably exceeds what they've done so far with these new introductions of characters. And now I don't mind when they bring characters in because I actually like this character a lot. I like his background, although we don't know a whole lot about him. But the way they portrayed him in this book is really interesting. But we got to be running out of people eventually. There can't be that many more people that are so much better than everybody else that we know that exists in this universe right now. There can't be that many more of them, right? but it seems like we're constantly leapfrogging this power level. And so that's kind of annoying, but kind of fun at the same time. But every time I read it, I go, really, they're doing this again? But oh, wow, he's actually pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think of that down below in the comments. So what I do like about this one is they do explore the artifact a little bit more. They give you some more hints about what it might be. And I have my own theories about what it is. They also go over a little bit more of its origin story and how it's traveled from long time ago to more present day. So that's really fun. We know a little bit more how it exchanged hands over time, and now it's in a hand of a more familiar character as far as the progression of how it got to where it originated to our present day. So that's really fun. I do like that little mystery right there. And I do like how ruthless and desperate all of our characters are. Catwoman is scared to death. Riddler's scared to death. Penguin is extremely desperate. This isn't really a Batman book. It's not been about him so far, especially in this issue. He just kind of gets his ass kicked here and there. But it is a fun issue. It's a fun read. I think issue 2 kind of wore me out a little bit. Issue number 1 did too, but this one kind of piqued my interest a little bit more. It felt different than the first 2 issues, and that's why I'm a little bit more interested in Killing Time in general. We only have a few more issues of this, so it should be a fun conclusion. Let me know what you guys think of this one down below. The last Bat book we read was Batman 123. We have Joshua Williamson. We have Howard Porter on the art. We have Maury on the colors. The first thing I'll say is I'm a little bit more interested in this whole Shadow War. This is part 5, by the way. I'm more interested in Shadow War than I think I've ever been, and I kind of miss the fact that I didn't pick up those other issues to fill in all the gaps. So I might do that. I might go back and read some of those, but let me know down below. I think a few of you have said that it's been a pretty good run. I should be reading Robin and things like that to kind of fill in some of the gaps here. I will say the art style is actually really refreshing. I do like the art style a lot. It's just real dark, and I do like that. It's got a real grittiness to it, which is real fun. The action scenes, there's so much color and movement and things going on. A lot of detail in the background. The pages are just full of detail, which I really like. The coloring is really nice too. It's got a real dark tone, but things aren't muddy. You know what I mean? So it is really fun in that perspective. There's some humor in here too. I do like there's a little moment between Damian and Batman. He's like, yeah, I kind of got a girlfriend now. And Batman's completely caught off guard and actually kind of gets him in trouble because of how off guard he is. Fun little spots like that. Lots of Deathstroke action in here too. We have lots of ninjas and battles and fights. It was a really well drawn book, I think. It really had me interested to see where the story might go. So kudos to the art on here for making me really want to see more of this. And I really want to dig into this whole event a little bit more if I can find the time to do so and catch up on the different books. So yeah, I really dug this book. I think it's great. We have a new creative team coming soon, so this will be the end of that. But I'm highly looking forward to those guys as well. Can't wait to read more about it. And hopefully I can get caught up on more Shadow War stuff. But let me know what you guys are thinking about Shadow War and then Batman 123. Let me know. All right, so that's it for the big 2. We're going to hop over into some indie books next with another highly anticipated book, at least for me, which is Twig. This is issue number 1 from Scotty Young. And we have Kyle Strahm on the art for this. And we have some other creatives on here as well. My first criticism off the bat, and I was talking to some of my friends in the back chat, was that we wish that Scotty Young was actually drawing this book too. Something like the Me You Love in the Dark kind of a situation, because we just love that art style. And we were expecting that from him. But I gotta be honest, when I was reading this book, I totally forgave that because this art style and this coloring and everything and how creative the world is, I completely forgot that Scotty Young was even on this book. I was completely overtaken by how beautiful the book was on its interior. So completely forgiven, and that is great. Kyle's doing a great job on here, and so that is really fun. So what is the story about? Basically, we have a hero's journey. We have somebody who's filling in the footsteps for his deceased father. He's in this real animated world. I don't know what kind of creature this is. You've seen the cover. You know what I'm talking about. He's got like creatures with him that are his sidekicks and things like that. He's taking over the role, a very important role his father used to have. And we're still exploring the ins and outs of that world, but the world is very interactive. Mountains are talking to you. I feel like there's lots of mystery that's left in this book. This world is chock full of just fun, interesting characters. I can't wait to get into that. We have the initial goal or the objective that was given to us in this book, and our main character explores that and he really hits a dead end and like a what do I do now kind of a moment. So that was fun. There's a traveling montage in here that I would really like to highlight specifically, where he kind of travels from different region to region. He's on this long journey, kind of like Lord of the Rings kind of a thing. He has to deliver this item to somebody. And the different landscapes he goes in, it's just remarkable, really. It's really creative. It's real fun. It's got this like cartoony feel to it, but it's also got this little sense of dread and horror as well. So I can't wait to see where this book goes. It is fun. It's a hero's journey book for sure. So if you're into the Kanto kind of stuff, or just like stories about the little guy traveling, beating the odds, things like that, you're probably going to be into Twig. Really fun, creative thing. A little bit of a horror tint to it, but it's going to be fun to see how this world blows out, and I can't wait for issue number 2. The next Image book we're going to talk about is Firepower issue number 20. So this is Robert Kirkman, and we have Chris Samney on the art. And I was really looking forward to Firepower coming back. I think I described the first, 18 issues as basically a book that never really has peaks or valleys. It's just a real steady, it's a book that just really plateaus. It's never too exciting and it's never too dull at the same time. There's just enough humor in the character dialogue and the relationships to make it funny. There's just enough action to keep you wanting more. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting characters and premises. It got a little bit muddy about the backstabbing and the double crossing and what team is really the good team and the bad team, I'd say, in the first 18 issues. They clarify that leading up into this one and then in the last couple of issues since they come back from the break. So basically, as you can tell by the cover, we have our big dragon that's been released. We have our serpent master here in control. He's wrecking shop, destroying and leveling cities, things like that. The regular human response is not very effective to this. We're going to have to go supernatural. We're going to have to go back into some lore, figure out some ways of killing this dragon, taking out the serpent. And that's basically where our heroes are starting right now. They're trying to build their ranks. I will say that there's a real lazy part in the writing for me in this one part. It's more of a show me, don't tell me kind of a situation where they're up against impossible odds. We cut away from them, we look at something else, and we cut back, and they're like, well, that was a good job, guys. I'm glad we were able to finish all that off in such a quick way. And so that was kind of disappointing. I thought I missed some pages. It was a little bit lazy, I thought, in my opinion. And I mean, honestly, we're not that far from where we started a few issues ago. Our characters were dumped off in a certain location. They're trying to build their strength back up, trying to get reoriented, trying to build up a plan. Those characters have been sitting in the same spot for 3 issues now. We have our dragon wreaking havoc somewhere. That thing's been sitting there for 3 issues now. We have this unknown warrior that was introduced a few issues ago, and that character's still sitting there right now. So there's no real movement at all. We have some character interactions and some conversations and some battles that we see and most importantly don't see here and there. But there has been no movement, physical movement of any of our characters right now. We're all just kind of sitting around talking about what do we got to do. And so I don't know. It's kind of like they're stalling right now, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. If you've been reading Firepower and you've read it the last couple of issues, including this one, am I missing something? Or are they just all just literally in the same spot where they've been for the past 2 or 3 issues, just kind of recuperating, kind of like licking their wounds and trying to figure out what to do next? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. There is some cool moments in this one for sure, though. So we're going to keep reading it because we've been reading it for 20 issues now. Firepower, Robert Kirkman. Let me know what you thought. Another Image book we're going to get into next is Little Monsters from Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. This is issue number 3. And now that I've read the 3rd issue, I really am starting to believe that this was meant to be read in a collected form. I don't think that issue number 1 and number 2 should have been 2 separate issues. They don't really flow well as single issues. And I think this one might suffer from that as well. Although there is a little bit of a shock value, a little bit of a hook at the end of this one, but it's the exact same shock value and hook that they introduced in issue number 2. So they're not really doing anything special there, but it was still an interesting read. We get a little bit of an origin story here. We have like another pandemic that takes over the world. Everyone's wearing masks. A lot of people are dying, and this mysterious figure is gathering all these children and converting them, if you will. So when we go back to the more present day, a lot of these kids, they didn't really grow up in an area that didn't have their kind around. So they're learning what it's like to have a human come into the mix right now, and then some of their monster urges are starting to kind of manifest a little bit. So that's really fun to see and explore with these characters. And I did appreciate that. But really, that's all this issue is about. It's about exploring that urge that they have as monsters themselves. And again, the hook at the very end is the exact same hook we saw in the previous issue with the exact same characters. So I'm not entirely sure if that was a great idea. But I think the story is just interesting enough for me to keep going. I really like Jeff Lemire's writing and Nguyen's art. It's really fun. They do have the right moments of splashes of red that they introduce in here. It's a mostly black and white comic, and so those little splashes of color really pop and really add some flair to the page. And I do like that. And also there's a little preview on the back here for Seven Sons, which actually looks pretty fun as well. So if you want to explore that book, that's in the back of this one as well. But Little Monsters, again, it's just kind of middle lane right now. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's interesting enough to pick it up. We'll see where issue number 4 goes. Another Image book we have this week is Rick Remender's A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. This is issue number 7. And in this issue, we're exploring that same killer who took out the mother a few issues ago. He's after the kids still. He finds them. He finds a real creative way to kind of lure them out of the camp, out of the safe zone that he's in right now. And he's going to try to finish the job, take him over to the boss, finish the job. We have some people that kind of get in his way, and it's a really interesting altercation between all of them. And we see his safe house, which is by no means safe. It's a little bit reminiscent of issue number 1. We don't really have a lot of explanation about this whole society and how they function and everything like that, but slowly we're kind of building that story very slowly in the background, trying to put the pieces in place. It doesn't make total sense yet, but we are building it issue to issue. So there is that. I've kind of given up hope that we're going to have an issue that just lays it all out for us. But issue number 7 was pretty fun, way more straightforward than the other issues, so I did like that a lot. Let me know if you're piecing this all together slowly like I am, or if I'm missing any big chunks of information, or just kind of ignored it in the previous issues. But let me know what you're thinking of Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. All right, I picked up 2 more books, 2 number 1s that are coming out that weren't exactly on my radar, but they were on the shelf, and I thought I'd give them a try. This is Dogs of London from Aftershock. This is issue number 1 from Peter Milligan. And I picked it up because it had that Dog Days vibe to it. I mean, it's unmistakable, right? We have a dog basically on the cover, covered in blood, and he's in a suit. So I immediately thought this was some kind of like Dog Days tie-in. It is not a Dog Days tie-in. It doesn't even feature dogs. It's just basically a gang name that these guys had over in London, like the Dogs of London or something like that. So it starts off with these older guys. They're kind of burying the past, right? It's got really like a old haunts. Remember that? I think that was the name of that series before, where these gangsters, their past is kind of coming back to life. I think in that book it was as in ghosts and things like that, and they kind of haunted them, and they were, you know, reaping the benefits of all their gangster lifestyles and things like that. This is a very similar book. It spends a little bit more time in the youth stages right now, the different gangs that are in the area and what they're kind of beefing about right now. There were moments in this book where I was a little bit bored, didn't really see where it was going. I didn't really like where it was going. A lot of names being dropped everywhere. A lot of, you know, this is the muscle guy and this is the other guy. This is the accountant and all this stuff. They do introduce a lot of people, a lot of relationships, a lot of gangs and things like that in the first issue. But it does play out in a more straightforward way towards the end. There's a little bit of a supernatural component that they add in the very end over here, which at least sparked my interest. I was a little bit bored throughout the book. And then that happened. I'm like, wait, that's actually a pretty cool little hook towards the end. So I did appreciate the little hook at the end. It just took a little bit of time to get there. We had to meet a lot of people, understand a lot of relationships, see how they all benefited of that as they got older. But then the end of it's definitely got you like, oh no, this is going to be a problem, right? Maybe they didn't bury the past as well as they thought they did. So that's what this one's about. If you like gangster books, if you like mob style books with a little supernatural element to it, you might like this one. So maybe check it out. The last book I read this week was from Image Top Cow. This is number 1, Metal Society from Zach Kaplan. I didn't even know this book was coming out. I went ahead and just kind of flipped through it when I was at the shop. It was very colorful, very bright. It looked like a boxing issue. Some lady was going to box a robot. I'm like, okay, I got to at least check this out. It seems like a wild premise. So we're going to get into it. And it is a great premise. So we basically have a robot-led, AI-led society. Humans were on the earth. They were gone. They were destroyed by their own means. AI robots took over the earth. Many years goes by, and then the robots decide, hey, we can bring humans back into existence. We have the technology and the know-how to bring them back, and they can kind of do the lesser jobs and things that we don't want to do. And they'll never grow their ranks. They'll never be powerful enough to take us over because we're so much more superior than they are. And that's basically the premise. It's a very Matrix-like situation with these birthing pods. People are assigned jobs. They act on those jobs, but there's a little rebellion growing in the human society right now. And it's really fun to see. We do get about the first quarter of this book is about this boxing match between this one human who's genetically altered by the robots to perform her duty that she was born for, and this other boxing champion on the robot side. So the first half of this is like the ring announcer bringing both the people into the ring, getting us oriented to the characters, and then it goes into a little bit of a flashback about how she was born, what she did, what led up to this moment. So that was a really fun exploration to see, you know, where we are and then how we got there. So I did like the storytelling aspect of that. And then of course the art and coloring in here, it's very futuristic, very robotish. There's lots of like holograms of projections and very futuristic tones everywhere. Robots all over the place. I do like the character design for the robots. They don't seem, some of them seem very traditional and very on the nose, but then others have more of a human form. So that is fun. There's a lot of variety in their shape and form, so they're not all the same and kind of boring. So I did appreciate that as well. So again, interesting premise. I like the storytelling. The characters are pretty fun. The intentions are all there, I think. It makes sense to me. So Metal Society was kind of a sleeper hit for me of the week. Let me know if you guys read this or saw it on your shelves. And that will wrap it up for this week's books. Let me know down below what your favorite books of the week were. I'd really be interested to know that. Again, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell notification to be alerted of new videos. I really appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the comments.